Time to check in with Dr. Joe Schwarcz. He's host of the Dr. Joe Show here on CJAD, Sundays at 3. He is also host of the McGill Office for Science and Society. And Joe, we're going to start today by talking about doping at the Olympics, which as a subject is not new, but what you're about to explain I have never heard of before because this involves a specific area of doping. So please, go ahead and share.
Yeah, I mean, this is a story that at first sounds unbelievable, and then it turns out that there actually is some science here. And this is about ski jumping. And ski jumping, of course, is all about distance, right? And how long you can fly in the air. And because of that, the clothing that they wear is very carefully regulated. It has to be very tight on the body because otherwise you can get extra lift. If you have a little bit of bagginess, you get extra lift because there's more contact with the air. So they very carefully measure people, and the clothing is very much regulated. And the way they do it for men is they use actually a laser, and they measure the distance from the bottom of their sexual organ.
Excuse me?
Up to the neck.
Hold on. Joe, hang on.
Yeah.
They measure from where to where?
You're right.
Why to the bottom of their neck?
From the tip of their organ.
Manhood.
To their neck.
Okay.
Okay.
Why?
Now, this is where this interesting bit comes in. The story is that some men are injecting hyaluronic acid into their penis in order to increase the size, so that when they actually measure, it looks like they need a bigger costume than they actually need. So there will be a little bit of extra room.
Uh-huh.
Now, it turns out that this is not as ridiculous as it sounds.
Really?
Because that little extra room that they can then have in the fabric can translate to about a meter extra length in the jump.
Joe, a meter is 3 feet.
And a meter is a significant distance. Now, it has not been confirmed that anyone is ever doing this. So it just may be a rumor that this is being done. But the interesting thing is that it isn't completely ridiculous to think that this would have some advantage.
Are you sure?
Because if you can get a bit more lift by having a bit more sag in your costume, that can translate to this extra distance. So I think we're going to hear more about this. Whether or not anyone actually has done this. This was sort of exposed by a German tabloid. So there may not be anything to it in the sense that they're not doing it, but scientifically, it does have some rationale.
Joe, I was all geared up when I saw the headline and that you were going to talk about this to tell me they got one particular guy who had actually gone ahead and done this. So what you just said is this is a thing they might be doing, but they found no, and they've proven that no one has actually done it.
No, they have not found.
Oh, that's no fun at all.
What makes it interesting is that first you would think that, it's a totally ridiculous story, but it's not, because there is a link between how tight your costume is, the ski costume, and how far you can jump. And if you can have it a little bit looser, as would be implied, by the false measurement, it could actually translate to greater distance.
Now, let me ask a non-scientific question here, just as you say that. It seems to me, and it's not just in ski jumping, but in speed skating as well, they wear these tight outfits, right, to basically streamline their travel through the air. It would seem to me if you loosened it up, you're getting more resistance. No,
ski jumping is different. It's different because you are actually flying through the air and you're trying to fly for distance. It's just like on an airplane when they control the flaps on the wings in order to go further. It's the same kind of idea, because you're actually getting some lift from the air. It's totally different than when you're just going parallel to the ground, where of course air resistance is key. But here the air resistance is a constant, but you are getting some extra lift from the flabby fabric. Anyway, I mean, there are, scientific papers that have been written on this. So the concept is legitimate, but, it's doubtful if anyone has done this. But there's something else that is also an issue that at the Olympics is the wax that is used on skis. Because now they have banned any wax that contains fluorinated compounds, the notorious PFAS, which we've talked about before. People worry about that because, these are these forever chemicals that can leach out of food containers and out of various kind of fabrics that have been treated to be resistant to water. Well, these are excellent materials for lubricating the bottom of skis, but now they have been banned because of their environmental consequence, and also because it turned out that they were found in the blood of the people who waxed the skis. And that's actually quite a process, if you've ever seen that, at the championship level. The waxing of skis is quite an elaborate procedure where they put on the wax, then they use iron to melt it, and they have to make sure it's exactly the right thickness, because that makes a huge difference in skiing. So now they have banned that wax, but there are all kinds of stories about how people are getting around the ban by using different versions of these compounds that are not picked up by the testing.
Okay.
So, there's all kinds of interesting things that people will try to do in order to
get ahead.
To win.
Yeah. Joe, I have a minute left. I want to get to the story. So there's a piece today that says a new study providing evidence of cognitive benefits from coffee and tea. Now, we've talked about this on and off, good, bad, indifferent. This is new, and it makes the point of saying, but it has to be caffeinated.
Right.
Decaf does not work.
I think it is the caffeine that is the active ingredient in this, in sort of reducing memory loss. And it's a very good study because it has followed thousands of people, nurses and doctors actually, for decades. And they have recorded the amount of coffee that they drink. And from their from death certificates and from hospital records, they know whether or not people eventually suffered from dementia or died with dementia. So they were able to study that. And it turns out that people who were drinking about 3 cups of coffee every day were less likely to develop dementia. And it isn't all that surprising because caffeine does boost activity in the body, including in the brain. It does, in fact, energize the brain. It allows you to use glucose, which is the brain's main fuel, more emphatically. So it's interesting. And of course, numbers here are important because they saw the benefit with around 3 cups of coffee and not with more. So this is not a question of more is better. And they did not see the effect with one. One seems to be too little. Mm-hmm. So I think people who are drinking 3 cups of coffee a day can sort of be happy that this may be doing some good for them. But it doesn't mean that people who don't drink coffee should be encouraged to drink coffee because, in some people, caffeine has negative side effects.
Well, so how would you know if you're one of those people? If the study says it's good to have 2 to 3 cups a day, but you don't drink coffee, you shouldn't start?
Well, I think one can start if you notice that you get palpitations.
Oh, I see.
Course,
okay.
Then you wouldn't continue.
Okay. Joe, we'll leave it at that. I thank you. I appreciate it. And good luck with ski jumping.
Okay. Bye.
I'm Dylan Playfair.
And I'm Tyler Smith.
We're putting loneliness in the penalty box by talking to some of our favorite athletes about the importance of friendship.
This is Bromance.
Bromance is brought to you by Charm Diamond Centers, proudly Canadian-owned and operated. Charm has been part of your love stories and bromances for over 50 years.
And you can find Bromance on the iHeartRadio network or wherever you get your podcasts.